Good morning. Many thanks, Madam Chair. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I would like to begin thanking Globe International, which is, together with the Global Judicial Institute on the Environment that I represent here, one of the most important institutions in this debate, not just about climate change, but the protection of the environment in general. I would also like to thank our hosts, the Scottish people, and as I have been telling in different events that I have participated, it's hard to find a people that is more friendly than the Scots. I would almost say the Brazilians, but then several other colleagues here would disagree, and especially the president, who is from Argentina, and then he would say, no, it's Argentina. And each one of us think that we are the kindest, the most adorable of all people in the world. But the Scottish people is different. And I would like to begin with this personal note. Globe and judges, how did this happen? And in fact, the question should be, how didn't this happen before? Because legislators establish the laws, judges are the implementers of the laws. It's so natural, or it should be so natural, that we meet and we exchange views on the legislation that is in place or the legislation that is in the making. Legislators don't get feedback from judges on the legislation that they make. They get feedback 10 years later. 20 years later, when the jurisprudence becomes jurisprudence. That's not a terrible problem in other areas of law, like contracts, even areas more related to daily events, traffic law. But this is, or can be, catastrophic in climate change law, for many reasons. The first reason is that climate change legislation is done and is conducted in an unknown territory. I'll say something that will be just among us. I think we are all lost in this. We know more or less what we have to do, but we don't have the precise recipes, and we don't have the precedents that can enlighten us in doing our job, and especially you, the legislators of the world. Second, and we can take this from our ordinary lives, whatever you do in a state of emergency, there is a great risk that you might do it wrong. And here, legislators will be legislating in a context of an emergency, a crisis. And third, legislators will be conducting their responsibilities, legislating at the local, the state, the provincial, the national, or even at the international level, with the concern of protecting not a particular constituency, but protecting the biosphere. It doesn't matter if you are in the Isle of Man, or in the Amazon, or in Africa, in the Himalayas. in the United States, and anywhere in the world. You are legislators of the world. Remember that. The bad news for judges is that we are also judges of the world. We were trained, and the constitutional provisions in every country that I see here were designed based on a concept that doesn't apply precisely to climate change. It is jurisdiction. My little territory, my side of the river, my little piece of the forest, my little segment of the glacier, my tiny portion of the desert. That's the framework in which we judges operate. So, legislators of the world, and as I call and I have written about it, planetary judges. Not because we apply international law, but because in applying even local laws, we have to consider the climate as a whole. We cannot put the climate system in a little box that we call jurisdiction, or that we call my constituency, in your case, the legislators. So, what really, in addition to those aspects that are the challenge that we face, unify us? Is there a single legal concept? And legislators, the best ones, please don't feel offended, those that have a law degree, some of the best legislators that I have met in my life are not lawyers. But you are lawmakers and lawgivers. So, is there a single legal concept that brings us all together, judges and legislators? To me, the single concept is called the environmental rule of law. It's a new concept. It began with us, the judges and the environmental law professors, but it's now part of the international law vocabulary, and it has been recognized by UNEP in UNEA 5 or 6. So, when legislating on climate change law, you are not just dealing with climate change, but you are dealing with the rule of law. And the rule of law is a vague concept. But we can say when we don't see the rule of law. We can say clearly when in our country the judiciary is not working because judges are not independent or they don't have integrity. We can say when the government is not working perfectly. There isn't a single concept of the environmental rule of law, but there are some pillars of the concept of the rule of law, and you are at the center of this debate in the global stage here, but in your own countries and regions. My last point is about something that legislators usually don't talk much about. You think, and then I will criticize the judges too. I have to be tougher with the judges, with us. But you think that your duty is to discuss, well, first to collect ideas, to discuss and enact legislation. Job done. Mistake. The job has just begun. Because a good legislator is one that follows the implementation of the laws that were enacted. Because laws are not enacted or drafted just to be there. The worst laws are the beautiful ones that stay in a box. Will still have your signature there, your name, but you cannot really sleep well knowing that that piece of legislation was not able to achieve the goals that you had. And this is called compliance and enforcement. And I end with the criticism of us judges and the disconnect between us and the legislators. Because we judges all think, but this is changing, that our responsibility ends the moment we put our signature there. Even if the law is defective and we could easily inform Parliament, or even if the law achieved the opposite goal of what it was supposed to do. It happens. It's not unusual. So both legislators and judges have the responsibility to understand on the legislator side that the duty doesn't end with the end of the legislative process, and we judges that our responsibilities do not end the moment we sign a judgment. We have responsibilities with the common good that should be in every piece of legislation. And this common good has to come through good compliance and enforcement. I'll stop here, and again, my colleagues from Globe, many thanks for inviting me to be here today with you. Thank you.
Thank you.